Kicking off our countdown at number 10 is Sophia Bush. One Tree Hill fans were absolutely thrilled when she got married to her former co-star Chad Michael Murray. They were on-screen lovers, so when they began dating in real life too, fans thought it would be like the perfect love story that we all hoped for, like me especially. They ended up getting married at a very young age, Sophia being 22 and Chad being 23 at the time. But they ended up separating just 5 months after getting married. Their split was a big dramatic scandal because reports claimed that Chad had cheated on her with Paris Hilton while they were filming the horror movie House of Wax. Sophia has talked about it in recent years and said they were young and had no business getting married in the first place. She also said she felt a lot of pressure from production for them to get married. She said the producers often pushed them to be together for the sake of the show, and a big reason why she went through with the marriage was because she felt that she would let the producers down, and also the fans. It was a short-lived marriage, but the worst part was they had to work on the show together for years after they got divorced. That'd be so awkward. Up next, number 9, we have Kim Kardashian and Kris Humphrey. It's hard to say which one of them regretted the marriage more, so I'm gonna put both of them because it seems pretty mutual. Their relationship and wedding was highly documented on her reality show Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Their relationship moved very quickly. They were only publicly together for a few months before he proposed and then engaged for just 90 days before they tied the knot. During the time, many people thought it was just for the reality show and the fact that they were getting their own special event called Kim's Fairy Tale Wedding, a Kardashian event. Their wedding aired and ratings were very high, obviously. It earned them 4.4 million viewers the first night and then 4 million the second night. But Kim and Kris had their issues, which we saw on the TV show, if you watched it. After just 72 hours of marriage, Kim filed for divorce for irreconcilable differences and listed the separation date as the date that she filed it. Like, she wanted it to immediately be put in place. She later admitted that yes, she loved Kris, but that she got caught up in everything else that came with it, like the media and the money. Kris later responded to her legal papers and claimed that their 72-hour marriage was based on fraud and that Kim was trying to boost the ratings for their family TV show at the time. Their divorce was finalized in 2013, 2 years after she filed it. It was a very long legal battle, to say the least. Sliding into number 8, we got Miley Cyrus. There is no denying the love between Miley and her ex-husband, Liam Hemsworth. They were actually together for over a decade on and off. They were engaged twice before tying the knot officially back in December of 2018. Maybe regret isn't the right word when it comes to their marriage, but Miley opened up about the reasoning for their divorce and revealed that she got married for the wrong reasons. She loved him and said that she still does and always will, but admitted that their marriage was a distraction. Their decision to get married came after they tragically lost their home in the Malibu wildfires. She explained that she lost everything inside her home and that she filled that void with their relationship. She told Howard Stern, I quote, "I lost everything. I just clung to what I had left of that house, which was me and him." But after getting married, she quickly realized that there was just too much conflict in their relationship and that it was not what they wanted. They got divorced officially just 7 months after being married, and she released a song called What the F Do I Know? And one of the lyrics is, I quote, "Maybe getting married just to cause a distraction," which just confirmed the things that she said in her interview. Moving on to number 7, we have Britney Spears. Maybe you forgot the time that she got married to a childhood friend of hers, Jason Alexander. Back in 2004, the two of them got married in Las Vegas and set the record for one of the shortest marriages in history. Worse than Kim and Kris. They were married for just 55 hours before Britney called it off and filed for an annulment. It all began and ended on New Year's in 2004 when she invited him to Las Vegas to celebrate the new year. Jason spoke about their relationship in 2012 and revealed that they had been childhood friends for many years, but that they were friends with benefits as they got older. So how did that turn into marriage? He said that they were very intoxicated when they jokingly said that they should get married that night. But Jason did have feelings for her behind closed doors, and so he went with it because he liked her. He said, "I went with my feelings. I was in love with her. I feel like she felt the same way. However, Britney did not feel the same way, and her annulment papers said, lacked understanding of her actions to the extent that she was incapable of agreeing to the marriage. Jason admitted that he was actually hurt by her words and her decision to end the marriage so quickly. Rolling into number 6, we have Russell Brand. In more recent interviews, Katy Perry and Russell have said that they do not regret their marriage with one another. But it was not always this way. They got married in 2010, which lasted 14 months before they called it quits. Well, him. When they first split, Russell did not have very nice things to say about her or their relationship, and his opinion stayed that way for a few years. In his 2015 documentary called Brand, A Second Coming, he said their short-lived marriage ended because of fame and said that she was the kind of person that he hated. He said, "I'm associated with the very thing I detest. Vapid, vacuous, plastic, constructed, mindless celebrity." Quite the thing to say about someone that you once loved. But his opinion and view on the marriage has softened up in the last 5 years. He now says that he looks at their experience more fondly now and said that he feels warm towards her, calling her an extraordinary woman. As for Katy, she has always been firm on the fact that she does not regret getting married to him and claims to have loved him very much. And if you haven't heard this story, it was actually Russell's decision to end the marriage. He actually texted her that he wanted a divorce on December 31st, 2011. A text message. Halfway through our list at number 5, we have Drew Barrymore. The actress has been in the Hollywood spotlight since a very young age, and at 19 years old, she jumped into a marriage with Jeremy Thomas, who was 31 years old at the time. Their marriage is also one of the shortest marriages in history, only lasting a couple of days. Drew has openly talked about the marriage and divorce and said, "I realized my mistake on the day that I married him. It wasn't because she didn't love him though. Their relationship moved very quickly and she was also very young. Just 6 months into dating, they decided to get married very spontaneously. They were partying with a group of friends at 4 a.m. when the conversation came up that they should get married because they were so in love at the time. Jeremy arranged a 24-hour minister to perform the ceremony at 5:30 a.m. that same morning. They changed their outfits quickly and had their little ceremony on the roof of a bar. The next day, Drew actually had to leave to film Boy on the Side, and they were supposed to go to Hawaii for their honeymoon afterwards, after she was done filming. Jeremy revealed that Drew ended up going to Hawaii alone and then called him while she was there and ended things. Yikes. In the number 4 spot is Kris Judd. The dancer was actually married to Jennifer Lopez back in 2001, but revealed why it did not last very long. The two of them fell in love while on set of her video Love Don't Cost a Thing back in 2001. They moved very quickly also, getting married just 1 month of being engaged. Their marriage lasted 9 months and not longer than that because of the famous lifestyle. He explained what tore them apart and said that it was tough to be in that kind of limelight. He said, "Your privacy is breached. You're no longer a normal person. Our wedding was a circus. I think several people got arrested trying to climb up a mountain trying to sneak in." The famous lifestyle of hers just bothered him, but when asking why they split, he simply says that it just did not work out. But things got a bit sticky in 2006 when J-Lo sued him, claiming that he demanded $5 million to keep him from publishing a book containing private details about her and their past relationship. So it might be safe to say that she has some regrets too. Up next, number 3, we have Jennifer Esposito. She was married to Bradley Cooper for just 4 months back in 2007 and addressed details of their split in her 2014 book called Jennifer's Way. The actress talked about her failed marriage and threw plenty of shade at her ex. In her book, she talked about their relationship and said she ignored all the red flags that were there from the beginning, which we often do. She said he was funny, smart, cocky, arrogant, and a master manipulator. I didn't necessarily find him that attractive, but I figured that I could enjoy his sense of humor and nonsense for a while. Yikes. Bradley Cooper's hot, just saying. They were only dating for months before they got engaged and then tied the knots just 2 months later. 4 months after becoming husband and wife, she filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. It seemed like she regretted it right away because in her book, she described the red flags as storming in like a marching band. Sniping the number 2 spot is Mario Lopez and Ali Landry. I'm not sure who regrets it more. Maybe Mario because he cheated on her days before their wedding, or Ali because he cheated on her days before their wedding. They were only married for 2 weeks before they called it quits because rumors had surfaced that he had cheated on her. In his memoir titled Just Between Us, he admitted to cheating on her at his bachelor party and said that's what made him realize he wasn't in love with her like he thought he was. He said he went on to marry her because he felt that it was too late at the time to split up at that point. Ali didn't know about the infidelity before they got married and said she believed him when he lied and said that he did not cheat. Mario also went into details in his book about how Ali apparently changed into an image-obsessed model and pressured him into proposing to her. So it seems like the wedding wasn't something that he ever really wanted. So, in our number 1 spot, with not much surprise, is Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. Maybe they didn't regret it in the beginning, but I guarantee they are regretting it now more than ever. You might argue which one of them regrets it more based on whose side of the story you believe, but their divorce has to be one of the worst ones in Hollywood history. It led to a highly documented lawsuit that has been damaging to both of their careers and probably their bank accounts. They first met back in 2009 on the set of The Rum Diary, but did not start dating until 2012. In 2014, Amber was spotted wearing an engagement ring, and then things seemed to be going very good for them at that time. The following year, they got married in a private ceremony at their home in LA, but the marriage only lasted 1 year. In 2016, Amber filed for divorce and accused him of physical abuse. She filed a temporary restraining order against him, and they settled a $7 million settlement outside of court. That could have been the end to everything, as the divorce was finalized in 2017, but here we are 3 years later. I'm not going to get into the details of this current lawsuit because I think we can all understand why they both have regrets about their marriage for their own reasons.
At number 10, Shannen Doherty and Ashley Hamilton. Beverly Hills 90210 star Shannen Doherty was head over heels in love in 1993. Upon meeting actor Ashley Hamilton, their spark quickly turned into a big old flame and things escalated quickly. Just 2 weeks after meeting, they decided, hey, this is a perfect time to get married, and so they did. They were married on September 24th, 1993 in a super quick DIY ceremony held in Shannen's backyard. Things were put together so quickly that Shannen didn't even have a dress to wear, so she wore a white silk bathrobe and bare feet to walk down the aisle. They didn't even invite most of their closest friends and family to the wedding. Their marriage lasted a little over a year, which is actually much longer than I thought it would, judging by how fast they got together, but they eventually hit rock bottom and called it quits after Shannen filed for divorce in 1994. Shannen cited irreconcilable differences as the reason for their divorce. It is said that the reason why their marriage ended was because Ashley claimed Shannen threatened him with a pistol, but we don't really know for sure. Now before I carry on with the list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, because it really helps the channel out, and also head on over to my gaming channel Viper Girl for some extra fun while you're at it. At number 9, Charlie Sheen and Donna Peel. We don't really hear much from Charlie Sheen these days. In fact, he's not really in the spotlight anymore, so I can't really say I know much about him. While doing a little research, I discovered that not only is his real name Carlos, but he's also been married 3 times. His shortest marriage being to a woman named Donna Peel. Donna is a model/actress who since leaving Charlie has pretty much disappeared from the limelight. Charlie met Donna in New York doing a photo shoot for a cigarette ad campaign in July of 1995. They had an instant attraction and they started dating immediately. 6 weeks later, they were wed on September 3rd, 1995 during an extravagant beachfront ceremony. Charlie seemed to have been head over heels for Donna, as he once said in an interview, quote, "She's an angel sent from heaven to take me through the rest of my journey." Eventually, this perfect relationship started to crumble and things just ended as fast as they began. 6 months after getting married, their marriage was over. Charlie ended up filing for divorce from Donna, saying that this marriage was suffocating him and that he, quote, had to come up for air. Charlie also compared his marriage to Donna to a car, saying that if it breaks down, it's wise to let it go. From what I've read, there doesn't really seem to be much animosity between them, and it was seemingly a mutual decision to break up, but they probably regretted getting too serious too fast. At number 8, Rudolph, Valentino, and Gene Acker. Now, even though this relationship was from a long time ago, that doesn't mean it doesn't count. This was some high-profile stuff during the early days of Hollywood, so just go with it. Silent film actor Rudolph Valentino and actress Gene Acker had one of Hollywood's shortest marriages, having lasted only 6 hours. Rudolph, known in the film world as the Latin lover, impulsively married Jean in 1919. Though Jean wasn't really into the whole idea, she agreed to marry him in 1919 in order to save her from a scandal. Before Rudolph, Jean was in a lesbian love triangle, but since that was frowned upon at the time, Jean went ahead with the marriage just to save her reputation and career. Just shortly after the ceremony, however, she began to regret her decision to marry and locked her new husband out of their honeymoon suite. After trying to get into their room for about 20 minutes, Rudolph just gave up and headed home that night. They eventually got a divorce and decided that they never consummated the marriage. At number 7, Ethel Merman and Ernest Borgnine. You know, sometimes marriage just isn't for everyone. That's perfectly okay after all. I mean, you do what you want. But I mean, for some couples, they're just not meant to be. Take Ethel Merman and Ernest Borgnine for example. These two Hollywood stars hit it off, and even though they both had 2 failed marriages under their belts by the time they got together, that didn't stop them from trying. The couple got married in June 1964 during a star-studded ceremony. Those in attendance included stars like Dick Van Dyke and Angie Dickinson. Though their wedding was a big to-do, their marriage certainly was not, as it only lasted about a month before calling it quits. After their wedding, they went on a long honeymoon, and this is where things started to unravel because while they were in public, Ernest was gaining more recognition than Ethel, and she just didn't like that. This fueled jealousy and made for a toxic match, so by the time they returned from their honeymoon, they were already over this whole marriage thing and decided to call it quits. At number 6, Audrina Patridge and Corey Bowen. The Hills star Audrina Patridge and BMX athlete Corey Bowen had a toxic and tumultuous relationship that really was just negative all around. After about 7 years of dating, the couple got engaged in November of 2015 and were soon married by the following year after welcoming their daughter Kira into the world. By 2018, they were done and the legal battle began. Audrina alleged that Corey was violent towards her. Leading up to their official divorce, Audrina had been granted a restraining order, preventing Corey from being within 100 feet of his wife and daughter. Audrina claimed that Corey was very aggressive towards her on multiple occasions, and she just couldn't take it anymore. Luckily, she was able to get out of that abusive relationship and probably regrets getting into it in the first place. At number 5, Halle Berry and Olivier Martinez. Halle Berry has been in a few high-profile relationships, but her most recent relationship with actor Olivier Martinez was her shortest. Having been together for only 2 years, they didn't get to carry out much of the things that they wanted to do together, like moving abroad. Halle and Olivier met on set while working on the film Dark Tide in 2010 and Tied the Knot in 2013. Also welcoming in their son Maceo. Though things were good for a while, Halle's past relationship with Gabriel Aubry started to put a strain on her marriage because she was forced to stay in the LA area while she got through her legal battle with him. Because of this, it put a halt on her plans to move to Europe with Olivier. Eventually, the two grew apart, having to be away from each other for work and other commitments. If Halle didn't have to deal with her other troubles with her ex, then maybe things would have been different, so maybe she regrets that relationship more than her marriage to Olivier. At number 4, Colton Haynes and Jeff Letham. Arrow actor Colton Haynes and celebrity designer Jeff Letham had a very short-lived marriage that only lasted about 6 months. These two were set up in the most Hallmark movie way possible, having a meet cute in an airport and passing notes on an airplane, and even their engagement was perfect, featuring Cher, and their wedding was fabulous too because the one and only Kris Jenner officiated it. Things were picture perfect, but eventually that photo began to fade pretty quickly. 6 months after their star-studded wedding, Colton filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences, and shortly after, Jeff also filed, citing the same thing. Their divorce was pretty scandal-free for the most part, but it also was a bit mysterious. Both parties agreed to sign a non-disclosure agreement saying that neither one of them would share any information about the other person with anyone else. Seems a little extreme, but maybe there's a reason behind it. There was a rumor that Jeff had actually cheated on Colton, though that was never confirmed. It seems as though maybe there were some regrets about jumping into this whole marriage thing too soon, or even at all. At number 3, Janet Jackson and James DeBarge. The singer-songwriter and sister of the late Michael Jackson experienced her first shot at married life when she was only 18 years old. Janet married James DeBarge in 1984, but their marriage only lasted about a year. Before getting married though, they were good friends. It seems as though they had been in love for a while and just took the first opportunity that they got to get married. Though Janet's father Joe did not approve of their marriage, they went through with it anyway and were together for 15 months. After they split up, there had been a rumor swirling around that Janet and James had a child, but they gave it up for adoption in order to save their careers and public image after James brought this up in 2016. It was never proven, but still remains a wild theory. Janet eventually ended up getting the marriage annulled because of James' substance abuse as it began to take a toll on their relationship. Janet regrets having gotten married so young, but hey, you live and you learn. At number 2, Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio. Being one of Hollywood's biggest stars can be all fun and games, but it also puts a lot of pressure on some people's relationships. I mean, imagine being married to the industry's most popular star. When Marilyn Monroe and Joe DiMaggio married, it was a pretty big deal. The actress and the athlete looked like a beautiful match who was deeply in love, having met and married within a short amount of time. Some people believe that their marriage was rushed because it all took place within time that they got between work engagements. They got married in a quiet city hall ceremony in January 1954 and turned a work trip to Japan into their honeymoon, but just 9 months later the spark had faded and their relationship crumbled. Joe allegedly wanted a stay-at-home wife, but because Marilyn was at the height of her career, she wouldn't agree to that and wanted to keep working. Joe also apparently had a hard time coming to terms with his wife's image, and apparently her famous subway grate scene was the last straw. Their marriage ended with Marilyn citing mental cruelty as one of the reasons behind their divorce. She didn't like how he didn't want to support her, and that's just not what she needed in her life then. However, he did stay by her side until her sudden death in 1962. And finally at number 1, Scarlett Johansson and Ryan Reynolds. Scarlett and Ryan's relationship is one of those that I forget ever happened. Though they were married for 3 years, apparently neither one of them was really into the whole marriage thing, and so they divorced. Simple as that. They got married in 2008 and the whole thing was pretty low-key. They didn't provide any details about their BC wedding to the press, and there are no pictures about it, so really all we know is that it happened. They didn't really share many details about married life either, at least until 2012 when they announced that they were splitting. As for why, well, Scarlett says that she was just too young to have known what she wanted, and some sources say that they fought a lot. They've since moved on with different people and are living their best lives separately. But maybe one day we will see them reunite on the big screen. At number 10, Jim Carrey and Lauren Holly. Jim and Lauren's romance came as quickly as it went. For years, Jim had been infatuated with Lauren after having watched her on the soap opera All My Children, and so when it came to doing a screen test with her for Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, he felt as though she was already part of his world. Though she turned down the role in that film, she was persuaded to perform alongside Jim in Dumb and Dumber, and it was then that their romance began. The two eventually got married in 1996 atop a mountain because, again, nothing says romance like looking over the edge of a cliff. It seems as though there is some kind of jinx that comes with getting married on a cliff because much like the mountain's edge, their marriage came to an end. Now, unlike many other celebrity marriages, this one didn't really end with disdain. Instead, it ended just because they were kind of over it. Their romance came at the emergence of paparazzi culture, and so as the biggest couple at the time, the paparazzi were following the couple everywhere and even setting up camp in their backyard just to catch a glimpse of the two. Jim and Lauren ended their marriage 9 months later, with some thinking that it was because of cheating or career jealousy. There was no bad blood, so maybe things just ended because they weren't meant to be. But they probably regretted their decision to wed because of the invasion of privacy from the paparazzi. At number 9, Mike Tyson and Robin Givens. Mike Tyson's first marriage to his wife Robin Givens was a rocky one. After 11 months of dating, they got married in 1988 in the wake of Robin's pregnancy, and after Mike gave Robin and her mother around $10 million to get them settled. In Mike's memoir, he accused Robin of marrying him and locking him into a relationship for her own gain, as he alleged that her pregnancy and subsequent miscarriage were faked in order to get him to marry her. In the media, Mike was dragged through the mud. There were allegations of abuse and mistreatment on Mike's part, and the infamous Barbara Walters interview did not help with his image. The interview was originally supposed to be a one-on-one profile of Mike, but before the interview, Robin allegedly pulled Barbara aside and told her that she didn't have the whole truth about them. Robin was then invited to join the interview, where she opened up about things that she sustained while married to Mike and commenting on how he's been treating her.
And I said, I don't deserve this. I never had this in my life before, and I'm not going to tolerate this.
Soon after the interview, Robin filed for divorce from Mike and was later caught cheating on him with Brad Pitt. Mike most definitely regrets marrying Robin, as he said so in his book, and others refer to his marriage to Robin as the quote, one that ruined him. Before I carry on with this list, I'd like to ask you guys to consider leaving a like on this video, and if you're looking for some more awesome content to enjoy after this video, check out my gaming channel Viper Girl for some more fun with me. At number 8, Luann and Tom D'Agostino. Real Housewives of New York cast members Luann and Tom D'Agostino weren't the greatest pair, and anyone on set could have told you that. The other cast members actually warned Luann about Tom, saying that he was untrustworthy and that he was still in love with his ex. Still, Luann continued her romance and the two got married on New Year's Eve in 2016. At the end of the show's 6th season, it was revealed that one of the cast members had compromising photos of Tom kissing another woman just days after his and Luann's engagement party. Soon it became apparent to the public that there were some serious problems in their relationship, as Luann and Tom got into a heated argument at a restaurant, which ended with Luann slapping Tom across the face. This heated relationship and Tom's subsequent cheating never subsided, as days before their divorce announcement, Tom was caught with another woman, but at that point, no one was really surprised. They were only married for 7 months, and those were the craziest 7 months of their lives. Luann regrets not having listened to her castmates when they warned her about Tom, but at least that chapter has closed. At number 7, Axl Rose and Erin Everly. The tumultuous relationship of Axl Rose and Erin Everly is one that is certainly ingrained in the rock world. The two met while Axl, the frontman for Guns N' Roses, was still a struggling musician. She became one of the most important people in Axl's life, being the inspiration for the song Sweet Child of Mine. After meeting at a party in 1986, the two formed an instant connection. Despite being a good-looking match on the outside, they had a tumultuous relationship, but this didn't stop them from getting married in a Las Vegas ceremony in 1990. Axl allegedly threatened to harm himself if she didn't marry him, so things were already off to a rocky start. The marriage was annulled in 1991, just 9 months after getting married, and in 1994, Erin filed a civil suit against Axl where she alleged that she was being abused by her then husband. Since the split, Erin has auctioned off memorabilia that she had kept from her days with Axl and the band, looking to rid herself of any trace of her old ties with them. She surely regretted this relationship because of how messy it was and the way she was treated, and the fact that she wanted to get rid of so much of her past also speaks volumes. At number 6, Kris Kattan and Sunshine Tutt. Actor and SNL alum Kris Kattan and his ex-wife Sunshine Tutt had an incredibly short marriage that only lasted 8 weeks. Actor and SNL alum Kris Kattan and his ex-wife Sunshine Tutt had an incredibly short marriage that only lasted about 8 weeks and left them both in cheating scandals. The two started dating in 2005 and tied the knot in June 2008, but it seems as though all the time in the world could not prepare them for the commitment they were about to give each other, because 2 months later, they were in other people's beds. When the news broke of their split, Kris was the first one to come forward to say that he actually caught Sunshine in bed with her ex, but after this accusation, Sunshine's family said that it was actually Kris who was seeking comfort elsewhere. In the end, they just chalked their failed marriage up to issues, but I'm assuming they regret this whole thing and getting married in the first place. Clearly, they weren't ready for this kind of lifelong commitment, so that was just a waste of time and money in the end. At number 5, Chad Johnson and Evelyn Lozada. Chad Johnson, also known as Chad Ochocinco, and ex-wife Evelyn Lozada were only married for 2 months, but so much happened in that short amount of time to permanently damage their relationship. Their relationship was intense, but it wasn't until after they got married that the world learned just how intense it was. After dating for less than a year, the two were wed in a 4th of July ceremony in 2012, but just 2 months later, there came an incident that broke them. Evelyn recalled finding a receipt in Chad's car for items that prompted the idea that Chad was cheating. The two fought and ended with Chad seriously injuring his wife. Chad was arrested for battery and domestic violence, and they divorced shortly after the incident. Evelyn did an interview about the ordeal where she opened up about her feelings on the situation.
He was lying, and I told him, I never forget telling him, I said, I'm not sticking by you through this. I don't care if my marriage is the laughing stock.
And the two have gone their separate ways since. At number 4, Elizabeth Taylor and Conrad Hilton. Elizabeth Taylor, one of Hollywood's most memorable icons, was married 8 times and had many stories and encounters to recall throughout her life, but one of her shortest and most regrettable marriages was to Conrad Hilton. The two were only married for 205 days before undoing their marriage after feeling neglected and abused by her new husband. She was 18 at the time of her marriage, but shortly after their wedding, Liz recalled how indifferent Conrad was to her and how hurt she was when he spoke to her using abusive language. Liz won her divorce on grounds of mental cruelty, she refused alimony, and took back her maiden name. It was almost like it never happened, and Liz wanted it that way. She knew she deserved better and refused to put up with Conrad's treatment of her. During their honeymoon, the two reportedly fought a lot and spent more time apart than they did together. She later told news sources that her idea of marriage was very naive, and so she regretted the decision. She lived a better life without him anyway. At number 3 is Zsa Gabor and Philippe D'Alba. Actress Zsa Gabor was married more times than anyone on this list, having been wed 9 times in her life. Some say she liked getting married more so for the pomp and circumstance than Some say she liked getting married more so for the celebration than for the actual marriage part, but who knows, she was living her best life. Her marriage to her 8th husband, Philippe D'Alba, was the shortest, having lasted less than a day, but not for the reason that you might expect. She didn't regret her marriage to Philippe, she regretted her marriage to her 7th husband, Michael O'Hara. Why? Well, because he ruined her 8th marriage. After marrying Philippe, she learned just a few hours later that her marriage to O'Hara hadn't legally ended, so her newest marriage was illegal. Zsa and Philippe had their marriage annulled the next day, and they never got back together, deciding that their marriage was just too weird. At number 2, Ike and Tina Turner. Tina Turner is an absolute legend, and to think that anyone would even have the nerve to hurt this queen is so sad. Ike and Tina were a musical powerhouse, but they had a tumultuous relationship, leaving Tina regretting having ever known him. The two met while Tina was still a teenager and began performing together. In 1962, the two got married and continued to perform together for the following decade. Though they were a successful duo, Ike had been abusing Tina behind the scenes, causing her so much pain that she didn't deserve, and even prompting her to try taking her own life. After surviving her attempt, she made it her mission to leave Ike and begin a fresh start. And that is exactly what she did, and she became an even bigger star because of it. Finally, at number 1, Prince Charles and Princess Diana. Prince Charles and Princess Diana were one of the most beloved celebrity couples. The whole world loved them. Well, they loved Diana. She was the people's princess, but behind closed doors, she was sad and neglected by her husband. She was always second best in Charles' eyes, having never gotten over his infatuation with Camilla Parker Bowles, a woman that he was told he could never have. The two got married in 1981 and had 2 kids together, but because of Charles' extramarital affairs and Diana's unhappiness in the relationship, they got divorced in 1996. Diana regretted marrying Charles because she always knew that there would be 3 in the marriage: her, Charles, and Camilla. She deserved so much better, but got Charles instead. She was loved by the whole world, and eventually, after she was freed from the royal family, that became enough. I mean, have you seen that revenge dress? I'm sure I'm not alone in wishing that she had more time to enjoy that freedom. At number 10, Eminem and Kim Scott. Rapper Eminem, aka Marshall Mathers, and ex-wife Kim Scott had a rocky relationship from the very beginning. They met in the late 80s when Marshall was 15 and Kim was 13. They lived together at his family home and later began a romantic relationship, moving in together and having a daughter. After years of being an on and off again couple, the two got married just before Marshall's first major tour. But it was then that Kim saw Marshall and their relationship without her rose-colored glasses, and where she began to regret her marriage to the rapper. Kim said that after the tour, Marshall got a big ego and started treating her as someone who was not worthy of his love and presence since he was such a big star. Kim also alleged that her husband had been cheating on her. The rapper's career had a very negative impact on their relationship, and so 2 years after tying the knot, they got divorced. They eventually tried things again in 2006, but that didn't even last the whole year. Before I continue on with the video, please do consider leaving a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far. We love seeing you guys support the channel, so go and smash that thumbs up button. At number 9, Brody Jenner and Caitlyn Carter. Reality stars Brody Jenner and Caitlyn Carter had a short-lived marriage that lasted just over a year, and though they've been together since 2013, marriage seemed to be one of their most regrettable decisions as a couple. Not because it was toxic, but because it just wasn't right for them. Technically, they weren't even legally married, but they saw themselves as married, so I guess that's just good enough for me. The couple saw themselves as best friends and made their bond stronger after getting married in Indonesia in 2018 before splitting in the summer of 2019, but it seems that during this time they were having second thoughts about their commitments to one another. Caitlyn wrote about her thoughts around her relationship with Brody, where she said that she started wondering early on whether he was really the right partner for her. Caitlyn also said that they did a lot of growing apart during the first year of marriage, and they both knew that things just weren't working out. There were a number of reasons why their marriage didn't work out, like their personal journeys and even their work environment, saying that working on the hills wasn't good for them. Bottom line here is that sometimes even even marrying your best friend can have its faults. At number 8, Vanessa Morgan and Michael Kovac. Now, there isn't much information out there about these two, but I'm going to include it because I want to hear your thoughts on this. Riverdale actress Vanessa Morgan and Chicago White Sox pitcher Michael Kovac had a very short-lived marriage, but no one really knows for sure why that is. I would imagine that both parties regretted their wedding because of how things ended so quickly and how publicized everything was, but it's still a mystery as to why they called it quits. The two got married in early January 2020, but just 6 months later, they were done. News broke of their split just 3 days after Vanessa announced that she was pregnant with the couple's first child, and some even speculated that Michael filed for divorce because the baby wasn't his, but that was proven wrong as representatives from both parties confirmed that Michael was the father. There were also rumors that Michael had cheated, but again, nothing has been confirmed. Looking at the past few years that Michael has had, having gone through an injury that prevented him from playing in 2019, to the pandemic pushing back the 2020 baseball season, maybe this just took a toll on Michael in a way that we might not understand. On the bright side, the two seem to be co-parenting following the birth of their son River, so maybe they're just better off as friends. At number 7, Eddie Murphy and Tracy Edmonds. Comedian Eddie Murphy had his quarrel with love. After a number of failed relationships, he thought he found the one when he met producer Tracy Edmonds. They dated for a few months before getting engaged, eventually leading to a lavish $500,000 wedding in Bora Bora. You know things are getting serious when you take it all the way to Bora Bora. Their wedding, which was attended by 25 people, wasn't technically legally binding, but they had planned to go through the whole process upon getting back to the United States after their ceremony, but unfortunately that didn't end up happening. It is said that things started to go downhill quite quickly after the ceremony, as people reported Eddie being standoffish and not wanting to spend time with his new bride. Other guests who stayed on the island after the ceremony reported that they could hear Eddie and Tracy yelling at each other fighting, which ended with Tracy in tears. Just 2 weeks after the wedding, they decided that marriage just wasn't for them and they called it quits. At number 6, Sinead O'Connor and Barry Harridge. If you tallied a list of celebrities who've had the shortest marriages, singer-songwriter Sinead O'Connor is definitely up there. Her 2011 marriage to Barry Harridge was very short-lived, having only lasted 18 days. Officially. News broke of their split from her new husband just a few weeks after having tied the knot, when she issued a personal statement addressing her decision to end their marriage. In her statement, she revealed that though she wanted to keep her relationship troubles a secret, she was being forced to open up over fears of being exposed, and so she revealed that because of family turmoil over their recent wedding, she and Barry would be separating. Sinead revealed that her marriage was already being sabotaged by those close to Barry just 3 hours after the ceremony, and that she was making the decision to separate for Barry's own good, saying, quote, "It became apparent to me that if he were to stay with me, he would be losing too much to bear," end quote. For a marriage to tank so quickly and to have to say goodbye to your partner like that must be very hard, and it's probably something that they wish they didn't have to go through. At number 5, Wiz Khalifa and Amber Rose. Sometimes when people look back on their failed relationships with regret, it's because they have bad blood and wish they never welcomed this person into their lives. But for others, their regrets are circumstantial. This is sort of how Amber Rose felt after her divorce from rapper Wiz Khalifa. The two were married in 2013, but after 14 months of marriage, they divorced, and it was a nasty breakup. There were allegations of cheating, and the custody of their son was also up for debate. Years later, Amber Rose opened up about her brief marriage to Wiz Khalifa and spoke out about her regrets concerning their relationship. In an interview, she said how she regretted getting married when she did because they didn't give themselves enough time to grow in their relationship. Amber also said that she felt as though they would have had a more successful marriage if they got married later in life, calling their wedding a mistake at the time. Luckily, following their explosive divorce, things settled for them and they became good friends, and that just seems to be enough for them. At number 4, Jennifer Lopez and Audrina Noah. Singer Jennifer Lopez is no stranger to walking down the aisle. She's been married 3 times already, but the one relationship she regrets the most is her first marriage to Audrina Noah. Their relationship lasted less than a year, but their tumultuous relationship after their divorce has lasted much longer. It seems as though their relationship was destined to fail, as Audrina documented a lot of JLo's life behind the scenes, later saving it for his own tea spill. Noah tried leaking videos of the couple's honeymoon after their divorce, showing the singer in an intimate setting, and in years since, he has been very outspoken about the singer, her career, and even had plans to release a tell-all book about his ex, followed by a movie deal. Talk about petty. JLo actually ended up suing Audrina in 2009 for $10 million, citing that the videos he released as well as the book and movie deals violated an agreement that they had made, which prohibited him from exposing the singer's life. Jennifer now looks back on this relationship with regret and doesn't even count her relationship to Audrina as valid because of how short it was. At number 3, Kaylee Cuoco and Ryan Sweeting. Sometimes when you hear about someone talking about divorce, saying that their partner became a stranger after the wedding, it can be hard to hear. I couldn't imagine how bad I would feel deal to wake up next to someone who's changed like that. This unfortunately was the case with Big Bang Theory actress Kaley Cuoco after her first marriage to her ex-husband Ryan Sweeting. The two got married in 2013, but after 21 months together, Kaley filed for divorce. After their split, Kaley opened up about her relationship with the former tennis player, saying that her experience with him ruined marriage for her and saying, quote, "I honestly thought I wouldn't get married again. My ex ruined that word for me. I married someone the first time who completely changed," end quote. She also went on to say that early on in her marriage, she felt as though something was wrong and that things were feeling off. Luckily, she's moved on and has since remarried, but her relationship with Sweeting is probably something that Kaley regrets. At number 2, Lena Waithe and Alana Mayo. Screenwriter Lena Waithe and ex-wife Alana Mayo surprised fans when they announced that they had gotten married in a private and secret ceremony that was a spur-of-the-moment decision, but just 2 months later, they announced their separation. In a joint statement to their supporters, the couple announced that they would be splitting up, and so as fans do, they speculated as to why they ended their relationship so quickly. Rumors that Lena had been unfaithful started swirling, and some sources even said that their relationship had been rocky even before they got married. According to some, Lena and Alana's wedding came after multiple cases of cheating, and that even after their wedding, Lena was still buying expensive gifts for other women. Allegedly, this was all too much for Alana to handle, and so they called it quits. There must be some regret regarding this marriage because they allegedly weren't ready to settle down because of the instability of their relationship. And finally, at number 1, Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt. Of all the biggest Hollywood couples, Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie were no doubt one of the most famous. The couple, who had been together for over a decade and who adopted many children together, seemed to be a picture-perfect and beloved family unit, and so when they announced that they had gotten married in 2014, fans were thrilled. So many fans had been waiting for this moment, and so when it finally came, it was big news. The bigger news, however, came 2 years later in 2016 when Angie filed for divorce. There were apparently a lot of reasons for their divorce. Their relationship dynamic had allegedly been thrown off after tying the knot because of the pressure to be completely faithful to one another since they had been in an open relationship prior, and the biggest reason for their split came after Brad had an altercation with their oldest son Maddox, which prompted Angie to reevaluate their relationship. This relationship lasted a long time before getting married, so maybe if that didn't happen, things would have been different.
Starting us off at number 10, we have Pamela Anderson. The second half of this marriage, Kid Rock, may have similar feelings, but Pamela has opened up about the marriage more than he has. Their marriage is famously known because it happened suddenly on a huge yacht in St. Tropez back in 2006. Their first engagement was called off in 2003, and then 3 years later, they got married in July on a boat. The yacht party was a huge success, but their marriage was not. It was actually very short-lived. Pamela filed for divorce in November of 2006, and it was finalized in 2007. Back in 2018, she spoke candidly about their past marriage during an interview with The Hollywood Reporter. She admitted that she never spoke to him again after their split. For her, it was kind of like an out of sight, out of mind thing. Let's pretend it never happened. She does admit the wedding shouldn't have happened, but does not slam him personally for anything. Rumors actually went around saying that the Borat movie was the cause of their divorce because Pamela had a cameo in it and apparently Kid Rock was mad. However, those two did shut those rumors down quickly. So if you see that on the web, it's not true. Moving on to number 9, we have Renee Zellweger. Maybe it's just me, but I'm always surprised when I read about her marriage to Kenny Chesney because it seems so random to me. Like, I always forget that they were married. They first met back in January of 2005 at NBC's Concert of Hope Tsunami Telethon. Reports say Renee told Jay Leno that there weren't any sparks between the two of them that night, but they still exchanged phone numbers. Sparks must have grown between them because they dated shortly after, and only a few months after dating, they got married. Their wedding was on May 9th, 2005 in the US Virgin Islands, where they invited 45 close friends and family members. Although it was a beautiful wedding, their marriage did not last long and came to an end just 4 months later in September. Renee filed for an annulment and cited fraud as the reason. That statement spread like wildfire and everyone was throwing shade at Kenny Chesney. But Renee came to his rescue saying, I quote, "Fraud is simply language and is not a reflection of Kenny's character." I feel like she should have clarified that, like, in the beginning, or maybe just filed for, like, irreconcilable differences or something like that. Like, why file for fraud? In spot number 8, we have Nikki Hilton and Todd Andrew Meester. Another marriage that you might have forgotten ever happened. Nikki was young and in love when they got married, but she is the first to agree that the marriage never should have happened in the first place. They were actually in Vegas when they made the impulsive decision to tie the knot, but their marriage only lasted 85 days. They got married in August 2004, and in November 2004, it was announced that a Las Vegas judge granted them an annulment. One of the couple's representatives released a statement saying both parties have ended the marriage amicably and they remain good friends. Nikki was only 21 years old at the time and Todd was 33, but they did remain on good terms until they eventually moved on and just met other people. So let's just pretend it never happened. In spot number 7, we have Amelia Warner. Out of anyone on this list, she probably has the least amount of regret, only because her marriage to Colin Farrell may not actually have been legally binding. Amelia was only 19 years old at the time when she married Colin during a ceremony on a Tahiti beach. It was back in 2002 that their unexpected marriage happened. But one thing that wasn't so surprising was the fact that it did not last very long. No offense to them. Just 4 months after they tied the knot, they called it off. But Amelia has always talked about it and demands that the wedding was not actually real, despite some people not believing her. During an interview in 2011, she said, "We didn't actually get married. It's not actually true. I think we've been too polite to deny it. We had a ceremony on a beach in Tahiti that was by no means legal and we knew it wasn't. It was just a thing we did on holiday. We booked them on the activities desk at the hotel." Regardless of the marriage or not marriage, she said it was still heartbreaking when the relationship ended. What a weird thing to do on vacation. Let's go get married. Next up at number 6, we have Carmen Electra and Dennis Rodman. We're not totally sure who regrets it more, but their wedding has been remembered as one of the most strange and sudden circumstances in Hollywood gossip history. The two of them got married in Las Vegas on November 14th, 1998, after what people described as an all-night bender. Well, that is the ingredient to a successful marriage. An all-night bender. Only 9 days later, Dennis filed for an annulment and claimed that he was deeply intoxicated at the time and was not in the right state of mind to make that decision. For a brief period of time, it seemed like they had reconciled and tried to work things out. They were seen together in public in early 1999, but by March of that year, they had filed for divorce, which resulted in their marriage only lasting less than 6 months. After the divorce, they moved on to other relationships. Yeah, don't get married drunk. Don't do it. Halfway through list number 5 is Jeremy Renner and Sonny Pacheco. You may not have known that the actor was even married because they got married quietly just over a year ago. But less than a year after they quietly tied the knot, his then wife filed for divorce and cited the reasoning as fraud. But she actually meant fraud. They were married for 10 months and things got messy very quickly. In the court papers, Sonny demanded that he return her passport, which she claims was stolen, as well as her birth certificate and her social security card. She cites irreconcilable differences as the reason for the split and says their prenuptial agreement should be violated because it is based on fraud. On top of that, she's also asking for physical custody of their daughter Ava, as well as spousal support, use of their Range Rover, and for Jeremy to pay for her moving expenses and her rent. Her court documents have a lot to say, but the actor has remained quiet since their split. That is one messy split. Sliding into number 4, we have Elizabeth Moss. We only know that she feels sour about her marriage to Fred because she called it traumatic, awful, and horrible. All words you never really want to hear when describing a relationship. The Handmaid's Tale actress got married to Fred in October 2009, but they ended their relationship just 8 months later in the summer of 2010. The two of them met when she was a guest on Saturday Night Live, where Fred had worked at the time. The divorce was filed for irreconcilable differences, but Fred later on admitted that he had been a terrible husband. Those were actually his words, not mine. During a 2012 interview, she spoke about him and said, "One of the greatest things I heard someone say about him is he's so great at doing impersonations. But the greatest impersonation he does is that of a normal person. To me, that sums it up." It wasn't the first time she actually spoke about her horrible experience being married to him. However, he has always taken responsibility for that. In our third spot is Pamela Anderson and Rick Solomon. I am sorry, Pam, you are on this list twice because you've had a handful of marriages and and divorces. I'm sorry. However, this one has a happier ending. Yay! The two of them have actually been married a couple of times. They got married back in 2007, but it was annulled just 1 year later in 2008. Then they got married again a decade later in 2014, but divorced just a year later in 2015. So to say that they have had a rocky relationship would be an understatement. But in recent years, he began telling media outlets that he wanted to get married to her again. And they did! That is right, this past December of 2020, they said "I do" for a third time in Las Vegas. The marriage wasn't very conventional, as it took place during an hour-and-a-half break she had between her magic shows. It was a very quick and small ceremony. When asked why they got married once again, sources close to them say they really are in love and have remained friends for the last 15 years, despite their first two marriages not working out. Sniping our number 2 spot is Nicolas Cage and Lisa Marie Presley. Some people might argue that Lisa was the one who had more regret because she actually ended an engagement to someone else when she met Nicolas at a party. Whoa. She was engaged to John Ozakia in 2000, but ended their engagement to be with the actor. Their relationship moved very quickly, and she was engaged once again, but to Nicholas, not too long after calling off her previous engagement. They were officially married on August 10th, 2002, but Nick filed for divorce on November 25th, 2002, just a few months after. So maybe he is more regret if he was the one who filed for divorce. When asked about the divorce at the time, he said they should have never been married in the first place. So that says a lot. I think they both have regrets. In our number 1 spot is Cher and Greg Allman. Their marriage is one that went down in history, and although there may have been some regrets at the time, Cher will always have a place for him in her heart. The two of them got married back in 1975, but separated just over a week later. They ended up getting back together and tried to work on the relationship, but when they were on the verge of an official divorce, she found out that she was actually pregnant with their son Elijah. Their marriage eventually did come to an end, and Cher revealed that his heroin and alcohol addiction was just too much for her to handle. She admitted that when she called him to say the relationship was over, he actually couldn't understand what she was saying. She said, I quote, "He was so high he didn't even understand me." Sadly, Greg passed away in 2017, but Cher tweeted out her condolences.